Today, I will be outlining a story that will hopefully help my peers transition from classroom learning to e-learning. This story is about my sister who had to make this transition in the beginning of 2020. With COVID-19 hitting the United States, many colleges have been having to make this transition from classroom learning to e-learning. Today, I will be detailing the unpredicted path that my sister took for making this transition. I will be giving a summary of how I heard the story of her transition. I'll be asking a few questions of how she did it and explain the research that I found while researching this. So, my sister was attending BYU at the beginning of 2020 when COVID hit. And her, along with her classmates, had to make the transition from classroom learning to e learning. It affected everybody in the college community, university officials, professors, and all of the students. It can be a very hard transition going from classroom learning to e-learning. And while I recently became a college student, I have noticed this transition being difficult, and I have done lots of research on it and have found ways to be helpful in making the transition, and I would like to share that with you guys to hopefully help you guys out with this transition. Before I go into the research that I have found, I would like to ask a question. How does an individual make the transition from classroom learning to e-learning without letting their performance drop? And I want you guys to keep this in mind while I give this presentation. So I had a desire to seek an answer for this question when I became a college student, but mainly so that I can better myself for my future career and my future family. This is an original question that I created when I started college because I was having many questions about how to make this transition. So I started off by talking to my sister and asked her a few ways of how she made this transition very smooth for herself. The first way that she said was that she decided to look at this in a positive way and have a positive attitude and use tools that were given to her. As many of you have noticed, when we do online reading, they sometimes have videos in there. They have little questions we can do that instantly gives feedback and tell us if we're wrong or right and how we're wrong or right. And in a standard textbook, we don't have videos to look at in that. We don't have questions to click on and figure out if we're right or wrong at that instant. So we need to take advantage of this because it's there to help us. And it wouldn't be in classroom learning, it's only in e-learning. And while doing some research, I came across an article by Swati Dasan that was published in 2015. And it talks about just this, taking advantage of tools given, because colleges know this transition's hard. It's not their fault that we're having to do it. COVID just happened. They're giving this to us to help us. We need to take advantage of this and use this. The second thing my sister noticed while making the transition was that she was able to do school whenever and wherever she wanted. And this was very convenient for her as a young mom. As I was doing my research, I came across another article by Bonke, Wisher, and Lee that was published in 2004, and it was talking about convenience in school and how us as very busy human beings can't always find a time and place like on a daily schedule that we have to sit there and do school like at this time or at this place. It's just way better to pick when we're free to be able to do this. Another thing she noticed that even though it was hard, she had to try harder to be motivated and stay on track. It helped her learn how to be motivated and a hard worker, and those are skills that she can take for the rest of her life. And so I was able to do my own research, and I made an Instagram poll a few weeks ago and asked my followers some questions. And so I'm going to show you those questions. So I asked, how difficult was this transition? 53 said it was difficult, 47 said easy. Then I asked, now settled in, which do you prefer? 19 said e-learning, while 81 said classroom learning. I also asked, which do you learn better with? 5 e-learning, 95 classroom learning. The last question I asked was, do you stay as motivated with e-learning as you do with classroom learning? 11 said yes, and 89 said no. So it was really cool to get an insight of what my peers thought and how they had their point of view on this. In conclusion, I like to point out that my sister's example has shown me that staying persistent and focused will allow me to make this transition effective, and that goes for anything in life. If we choose to follow my sister's formula with giving tools taken, with using tools given, taking advantage of having class anywhere and learning life skills, we will be able to make the transition from classroom learning to e-learning without any issues. After hearing my sister's story and doing research, I am now a firm believer that we need to know the pros and cons of e-learning and classroom learning to help us make this transition. Truly, e-learning is going to be the future. COVID's not going anywhere, and we need to learn how to make this transition as smooth as possible because it's our future.